Next point I had, quick one. It kind of goes back to the viewership again, but I thought he made a really interesting point with people watching on cable versus people watching on Apple TV, where people on Apple TV are intentionally buying this service to watch MLS. And so I
Hmm.
think you're going to get a more dedicated viewer in that case versus somebody who has cable and just happens to like be flipping through and find a game on and watches it or whatnot. I think you're gonna get a more dedicated viewer for somebody who's gonna go out of their way to buy Apple TV. They're gonna be ones that watch the games more often. He talked about how the average viewer watches 65 minutes of the 90-minute game. So I think the Apple TV viewers are probably skewing that a bit higher than the cable TV viewers. So it makes me think that maybe that's the way they could try to go down more is trying to get the people that are intentionally buying. You can get a better idea of who truly is like a fan of the league, a follower of the league, who's going to be more willing to spend money on it versus somebody who just like happens to flip through and find it on. I just thought it was an interesting point.
I have a lot of really strong opinions on this
Interesting. I'm
because
curious. What are your strong opinions on this?
I've got strong opinions on the people who complain about the Apple TV deal
Mm,
because a lot of people I'm trying so hard. Like if I haven't, I don't do New Year's resolutions. My New Year's resolution
mhm,
is to stop using a lot of people or all these people like as this general overarching term because it's not true, right? But I have heard a lot of times
mhm.
when speaking to individuals or on social media or whatever, like MLS is killing its attention because it doesn't have the games on cable TV so that the casual can just flip on and turn to it, right? It was on cable TV for 25 years. The casual did not flip on and turn on those games. There's a reason that they went this direction. If the casual wanted to do it or was genuinely interested in what it was providing. Apple TV plays like 40% of the games for free anyway. So the odds that you would flip through the TV and go, "Ooh, an MLS game, I'm going to keep that on," instead of flipping on to Jeopardy or to Wheel of Fortune like Pops always used to do, versus being on Apple TV and seeing an ad and then clicking on there and really, oh, that's a free game of the week. I especially with the global reach of Apple TV, I think you're picking up the same amount of casuals. And the people who complain that, oh, it is killing its general overreach. I think on paper, yeah, absolutely. I think that there is a lack of knowledge of what's going on to the general viewer or supporter, but that same person is not like, oh man, if it was on cable TV, I'd be watching it every week. That same person is the one who watches the Premier League or the Bundesliga or the La Liga or whatever, and then is too busy to watch something at 7:30 at night. That has always been my belief because I was there for the early 2010s all the way down through where we are now. And there are people who are been there way longer than I have. But those games on ESPN or Fox were disgusting. They were not given the time of day. And you remember, you watched some of them on ESPN too. They had no like dedicated coverage, or they had dedicated coverage, but the camera quality sucked. It was always half the time it got pushed back for some other game going into overtime. Like this is a dedicated service. I think it's a good deal. Now, I'm happy to hear that argument. The oh we don't have the general reach, but I would love to see somebody try and find the data of the general fan who accidentally flipped onto an MLS game on ESPN on a Sunday and was instantly hooked from the day. Because I don't believe that number is as big as people want to make it sound, which is why I think when people are like, "Oh my God, they won't release the Apple numbers," that means they must be bad. I think they're exactly where they expected them to be, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in a little bit too because he didn't report them, but I have such doubt that there are the people out there who are like, if it was on cable TV, I'd be watching every week. Now, there are people who are like, oh, I used to watch it on cable every week and I'm not going to buy Apple because I don't want to spend on another service. Fine. But I don't believe that there are the people who didn't watch before who are then saying, oh, I would have watched if it didn't go to Apple. And then they're just complaining to complain. Rant over. Go Red Bull.
I mean, even the last person that you're talking about, the one that has cable and doesn't want to pay for an extra service, I get that as well. But like you said, there are so many free games. Who cares? Like, just watch the free game. Like, I get it. You might be missing out on your team specifically, like watching them every week. you could still watch games if you're a fan of the league. Like there's plenty of free games to watch. I think the people you're talking about in terms of the ones that are saying Apple deal is bad, I think it's just the anti MLS crowd that is looking for anything that they possibly can to just be like, oh, MLS is destroying their league and we need to build something else up so that we can do it for the fans and think about the fans and all that. I 100% agree with you. The Fox ESPN coverage was terrible. They would, like you said, it would get delayed for overtime games. It would get booted too. It'd be like, oh, we're gonna move this game that's on Fox Sports One. We're gonna move it to Fox Sports Two so that we can put on like Division Two volleyball
Yeah,
on Fox Sports One.
here's a perfect example. NYCFC used to have their games played at 11 p.m. because the Yankees or Yankees rerun or the Nets or whatever, whatever was on Yes, the cable network Yes, would play that game instead. I remember multiple times getting ready to turn that game on because Red Bull had a bye or they played on a different day, and I was like, okay, I'll watch New York City, and they got bumped to 11 because they didn't want to be put on in prime time when the Yankees or the Nets could be playing. So you want to talk about why they were moving away? It's because of stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I 100%. I think it's been the right move. I've been happy with it.
Yeah.
This
And
this
again,
next
I don't,
point.
sorry, one more. I don't care if
Oh,
people don't love it. That's okay. Like you don't have to love it. You can complain about the time slots and not having them all spread out, whatever. But I just want to emphasize again, I don't believe that we are missing out on billions of eyeballs from people who would have just casually flipped by it and been like, oh, this is my game from now to the end of time. I don't believe
yeah.
that.
No, I agree too.